Tree My Dog. Today's show, we are highlighting bears, bear biology, bear ecology, and today's especially part one, the human dimensions of our friend the black bear, a southern tradition here in these Appalachian mountains, bear hunting with dogs. And we're going to dive in, have some interviews, and a good friend of mine stops by the Cerebral Rocking Chair to give you firsthand thoughts from an actual bear hunter. But let's dive on into the show. Hope everyone's doing fine on this nice spring day. We have something special for you today on the Appalachia Atcha podcast. We are talking natural resources, hot and heavy today. And one of my passions is the human dimensions of wildlife. So starting my career as a wildlife biologist and extension agent, I got into this career to work with wildlife, but as most of us find, we deal with humans more than anything, the human element. And so we're focused on human dimensions. So bear season has come and gone here in this past fall, but it's a great time to look back and look forward for this great tradition in our heritage of bear hunting here in the Southern Appalachians and bear conflict and overall just basic bear. So today we have a good friend of mine stopping in the Cerebral Rocking Chair. He's going to give us some thoughts from the bear hunter perspective, and we'll hear from some state agencies and overall looking into black bears in Tennessee. And as always, we'll talk about hobby farming, give you some garden updates at the end, explore a nasty invasive, and end the show on some downtown events. So let's dive right on into the bear portion of our show. So you're going to see us refer to hunting with dogs today. That's a big part of our bear hunting here in Southern Appalachia. And this past weekend, I was fortunate enough to go out and to the American Plot Association's Plot Days held in East Tennessee, Greenville, Tennessee. Had a lot of fun and got to meet some old friends of mine and really celebrate this breed that is unique to Southern Appalachia. There's nothing more Appalachian than a plot hound. Their history dates back many, many years ago for substance living in these mountains, and it was the breeding of Von Plot and that family, the Plot family, perfecting this breed of hound over the years, and they had a 3-day event celebrating all of that accomplishment. So the American Plot Association is a organization dedicated to furthering the breed. And if you look, they are a national association. So the Plot dog specializes in big game, such as bear, hogs, and cats. They make exceptional coon hounds for both leisure and competition coon hunting. And for those that are listening, Plot hounds have the ears of a typical hound, but they come in brindle as a defining characteristic of this breed. They come in blacks, brindles, even buckskin. My Uncle Jerry, who taught me how to hunt and really built up a love and respect for the outdoors, he favored a saddleback Plot, black back, brindled legs, or a solid black as you can have. But the historical foundations of Plot differ from most hound breeds, and like other running or treeing hounds, the earliest Plots were not of English foxhound origin, but rather were imported from Germany by the Plot family all the way back to around the 1700s. So if you were watching us on YouTube, you got to see some Plot hounds treeing a bear here in Blount County. So a really interesting breed to look at and to be celebrated. Plot Days is an annual event, and had many a dog there, but they have contests that really define the breed. For example, these are some Plots baying a fake bear. There was no real bears using this, but just really seeing the characteristics of the dogs, being, doing what these dogs are bred for. These are working dogs. So they have hog also, which is an invasive species that we're trying to control. If you watched last episode, we talked about how detriment those wild pigs are on our landscape. And also raccoon hunting, they do the swim races, which is a lot of fun, where they have to swim across the pond and tree. But they highlight the breed standards and do a bench show. It was a really fun event. I got to attend with some family members and really celebrated this Southern Appalachian dog breed. But black bears in Tennessee, it was a real sad story there for a while, but we have a great state agency and doing a lot of great research and a lot of data to come back. And now we are seeing more bears than ever. And that is creating another human dimension of this, where you have homeowners and landowners that are coming in contact with black bears that are not typically used to seeing these great critters on their landscape. So let's talk a little bit about bear expansion and population estimates. This is from Tennessee.org. Mr. Dan Gibbs is a biologist that you're going to hear talking. This is off of their website. So let's talk a little bit about bear basics.
You know, we're trying not to do any supplemental stocking or whatever you want to call it as far as expansion. The entire state used to be covered in bears, you know, back when the state was first settled, and now they were relegated to the easternmost counties. And as they've recovered, they're starting to recolonate and reclaim their former range and slowly moving west. So we're wanting to try to document where that's occurring. Right now, we're wrapping up our first year of our population estimate, our density estimate that we're doing, which is a cooperative effort between Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. This year we did our easternmost counties, along with South Carolina and Georgia doing theirs, and then next year North Carolina will do their part of that. So we'll have an estimate of the entire Southern Appalachian mountain area for black bears, and then the agency is hoping to do 2 more phases out of the next 2 summers and go further west over towards the region 2 and 3 boundaries. Well, we've always estimated, including the park, you know, between 5,000 and 6,000 bears, but that's really an estimate based on your harvest and having a general idea that you're probably harvesting around 5 to 10% of your population. Historically, big game population has been very difficult to get a handle on, but the new technology out there is allowing that to happen. And for the bear, the technology is using DNA analysis. It's a passive survey. We're setting barbed wire hair traps up in the woods, and the bears go through the barbed wire, it collects the hair, and then we're pulling the hair off and do DNA analysis to identify the individual, and it's just a basic mark recapture from that point. So the technology's finally gotten to where we can get these estimates. The thing that's important to know about bears is their natural range in Tennessee is the entire state. If you look at historical documents, the place was full of black bears. So the bears aren't really migrating, they're recolonizing former range. And that's going on all over the southeast. And the agency's stance is that we're not going to discourage that, but we're not going to encourage it either by doing any supplemental stocking. What the agency is doing is we've been developing with all the other southeast states a new education program called BearWise. And one of the things we're focusing on is to try to get people ready for what's coming, because we are going to have bears in Middle Tennessee. I mean, we're already seeing reports of cubs in Franklin County, down that way. We occasionally get reports up in Macon County. We've gotten reports even in West Tennessee on the Mississippi border. The bear population is expanding into that former range, and so as an agency, our goal is to try to get people prepared for that. People just have to be aware of what to do when they do live in areas where there's bears, and that's basically managing the attractants, which would be things like bird seed, household garbage, and pet foods. If they'll take care of those 3 items, that'll cover probably 95% of the issues that we have with bears.
So you hear that bears are doing quite well now. They're moving into different parts of Tennessee. As I'd mentioned before, we heard from Mr. Gibbs that at one time it was a bleak outlook doing those surveys, the hair samples, and I was actually a part of an internship in college to help set those traps. So very unique data that is going on. But in the mid 1970s marked the beginning of Tennessee's modern era as far as bear management goes. They actually closed the bear hunting seasons from 1970 to 1972 that the population would rebound. When the season resumed in 73, only 16 bears were harvested. 14 came from the same wildlife management area in Tellico. Even with hunting season closure, it was obvious that more extensive management was needed. A report from the 74 Eastern Workshop on black bear management for black bear remained only in 10 counties. So you saw the map earlier, they're expanding, and that's where we run into a little bit of the human dimension side of things. As an extension agent in Blount County, I get calls on bear conflict and living with bears. Most of Tennessee's experienced population growth with people moving to our fine state, and it's no different here in these East Tennessee counties. Blount County alone receives a 3% growth rate every year for the past several years that we've studied this. So a lot more inhabitants, a lot more bear expansion. So that's going to mean that we're going to run into more bears, and that's a great thing. We just have to be bear wise as they're pushing that. So if you'll search Bear Wise, that'll take you to their website. The Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency has a lot to do with this. So it talks about what to do if a bear approaches you. Following simple guidelines will minimize any unnecessary dangerous encounters. Never feed or approach bears. If a bear approaches you in the wild, it's probably to assess your presence. If you see a black bear from a distance, alter your route of travel. And for goodness sakes, don't throw feed and run. We hear that, throwing food and getting out of there, we don't want to do that. Don't store food, garbage, or other recyclables in areas that are accessible for bears. Do not feed birds or other wildlife when bears are active. Keep grills and smokers clean, and talk to family and the neighbors when bear activity is occurring in your area. They will almost always find an escape route when left alone. Shout, throw sticks in the vicinity of the bear to encourage flight once the escape route has been established. Females with the cubs will often climb a tree to escape for cover. And never surround a tree holding any bear, especially female with cubs. So locating that lure is very important. But remember, notify TWR immediately if you witness aggressive behaviors by bears. They're usually pretty shy and slick creatures, so anything can become dangerous. It's impossible to prove that anything's 100% safe, but they are typically shy and elusive animals. And if you caught that in the video, they talked about that they get good population estimates from harvests, and that where we include hunters on the landscape. And they had mentioned that only 5 to 10% of the population is being harvested. So hunters do a lot of good in that aspect. Overall, in wildlife management, no one loves the wildlife as much as hunters. Their fees for their license and their recreational expenses a lot of times go into management of these beautiful creatures. So they're getting good data from that. They're managing it where we're not taking too many off the landscape, and it looks like they're expanding on their own. They're doing a great job. Starting out with initially only in 10 counties. Now they're seeing occasional reports all the way out to Memphis. So outstanding. So the hunting part of it is where we're coming in next. There is, landowner and hunter involvement, and I wanted to invite a hunter's perspective here because dogs do not understand property boundaries like we do. And as mentioned, hunters are an important resource in managing these creatures. So let me invite you to our front porch, to our cerebral rocking chair, and invite our next guest. All right, we have a special guest today in the cerebral rocking chair. We have a good friend of mine. I grew up with him here in Southern Appalachia, and this is part one of a two-part series on one of the more important, all of them important, but one of the biggest pastimes in Southern Appalachian culture here for those that like to recreate. We're going to talk a little bit about black bear hunting in particular. And throughout this spring and summer, we'll be doing many shows on all kinds of outdoor recreational opportunities in this great East Tennessee mountain line land. But I will introduce our good friend, Dallas Inman. Thank you for coming out, Dallas.
Thank you for having me, Ronnie.
Yeah. So Dallas grew up here in the Blount, Sevier County region, and he is a bear hunter. And we're going to get it straight from the horse's mouth today. Talk to someone who does this for fun as recreation. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it as far as going about recreating in the great outdoors pursuit of bear.
Well, I'd say around here the main probably source of bear hunting would be with dogs, hounds. Some guys use curs, but mainly hounds. So that's kind of what we do. There's really a lot to it. Probably, a lot of, a lot of foot travel and, seeing a lot of good country.
Yeah. So when you talk about your dogs, they're a hunting companion of yours, right? So you utilize them in the field. And you spoke about hounds. So what kind of hounds would you typically see in the bear woods?
Well, as far as I go, you're mostly around here. You're seeing probably a majority of the plot hound. You see some mixtures of dogs, walker hounds, plot hounds, blue ticks, and such. But for this area, the plot hound, it's pretty common for this area, and it's kind of a Southern Appalachia.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of history to that breed of dog. Plot hound is a nationally recognized breed. They come in a little bit different colors. It's a unique breed because they can be different variations within that breed. We'll put up a picture of some plot hounds, and you'll get to see Dallas's plot hounds eventually. But they're a typical hound. Got a big nose, long ears, right?
Yeah, well, they're kind of a type mate dog, what we call a type mate dog. So you're looking at probably a female, probably about 45 pounds, 40 pounds. They're probably, compared to another hound, they're probably look more like a cur, I would say. They typically come in a brindle or a black color.
Yeah. And they are something special to us hunters here in the region because they come from Southern Appalachia, born and bred, a long line in the Smoky Mountain region from the Plot family. And we could do a whole episode on the history of the Plot hound. But when you see them out, they could be black or brindle. And it's hard to explain brindle if you're not familiar with that color, but it's kind of like tiger stripes, brown, black, mottled. And that's really distinctive of a Plot hound is that brindling, right?
Right.
I know growing up, we coon hunted with some plot hounds, and each person has specific preferences of those hounds. I remember my uncle who taught me how to hunt. He loved what he called saddleback plots. Yeah, he had a combo color, had a black saddle on the back, and had brindle markings up the legs, and then. There's even one called buckskin plot that I don't see a lot of anymore. Do you see any buckskin plots?
Yeah, I've actually about 2 litters ago that I raised, I had 3 of them in it actually, and they kind of put you in mind of a yellow lab, honestly. So, but I kind of prefer a darker brindle, almost black, really. I mean, if from a distance you'd look at it and think it was black, but when you get close up on it, you'd be able to see the markings of the brindle in it. So
but these dogs, they have a tenacious attitude. They have something that we in the field call grit, right? Grit, and a lot of drive, a lot of passion to do what they're bred to do, and that's like any sporting dog or any gun dog. They are bred to perform a job. So a lot. Not saying they can't be family pets, and a lot of these hunters consider them family and a dual purpose pet and kind of a working dog, but they're certainly bred to do that, and they need to have a job to be done. You had also mentioned curs. They're they're a separate, like a distinct group, wouldn't you say,
Yeah.
from a hound? They're a little bit different. They, from my experience, they're a little bit smaller of a build dog.
Yeah.
Shorter ears. Some of them have good noses, but I wouldn't quite say they have the same kind of nose as a hound. Would you?
I would say just different lines. I would say would
Mm-hmm.
probably more distinctive if they're geared towards big game or small game. So
yeah. But yeah, we could do a whole episode of that. And there's other hounds. We were talking in the lobby earlier and mentioned that Plott hounds are the state dog of North Carolina officially, and our great state, Tennessee, has the blue tick hound as its.
I actually own one of those. She's a really nice dog.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of those dogs do a good job on bear. You'll see, some of the coon hunting hounds will also, you'll see them in the bear woods. I've seen walkers. They're not as common, I think, as some of the Plotts and others. But what do you want that dog to do for you when you're out recreating? I mean, what's your purpose of using those dogs?
Well, I think it's a more effective way to, honestly, to just take care of the population. I mean, we use dogs because I honestly wouldn't even bear hunt if I didn't have a dog. So it's kind of that thing where
it adds an enjoyment.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it kind of differentiates from different, forms of hunting. Because if you were a deer hunter, it's about the deer. It's not about the rifle that you carry exactly or the tree stand that you're hunting. But for bear hunting, it's about the dog. So but that's mainly.
But in general, it's more of a social thing when you hunt with dogs.
Yes.
A lot of the deer hunting and those types of sports and recreation, that is done solitary. You're sitting in a stand, you're with yourself, and there's some great advantages to that. I always like to say you never go in the woods as heavy as you leave it. So a lot of good alone time, a lot of good reflection. But also with the dogs, you get a lot of social time, hunting with friends, and those dogs become your friends. But, we'll talk about bear population in a minute. But for someone that's never seen hounds work, so what does those dogs do when you turn them loose? I mean, how do they help you in finding that bear?
So the way we actually hunt is we typically will walk in these mountains and either lead them or let them, free cast, kind of what we're saying. So they'll stay out in front of us a little bit, or and we'll just either walk across where bears come across. We call it just walking across a bear track, or they'll win something off down in a holler below them or on a ridge top, and or we'll do what we call rigging. So the dogs will be in the truck and they'll be winding from the truck, and they typically can smell a long distance from there. So sometimes it's a little bit better method because you can cover a lot more ground, obviously, than on foot. But you can't get in some of these remote areas, but other than on foot. So basically, they're just, we're using them to find the bear. Simplifying it, but
so that dog when it walks across a bear, when it picks up that scent of a bear, they alert you. Or that's called trailing, right?
Right. So though it doesn't exactly. So it may be the track may be hours old, and then that begins into a trail, and then once they trail the bear up to where they either come to where he's starting to move then, or he's getting out of his bed, they find him. We call it jumped. So then they jump the bear, and then that's when it kind of starts into a run, and then the ending goal would be for them to climb a tree, and the dog stay until we get there to pet them up or harvest the bear, whatever we decide to do.
So they'll eventually run that track and tree the bear.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
Yeah. And a bear, it doesn't necessarily want to tree, right? No. So
they have a lot of endurance, and that's where it comes into play with the dogs that you're hunting also, because you're looking for what you were talking about earlier, drive and grit. You're looking for enough drive to stay on that bear until he decides he wants to go up or, stop. And so that's where that drive comes in, and it really plays a benefit in these mountains. So,
I bet. Yeah, it's not easy country
No.
to get around for sure.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, how long of a process can that be from when
Um,
it smells that bear to eventually put it up in the tree?
well, it just varies. Every one of them's different, honestly, because sometimes, the trailing can be, it just depends a lot on the conditions, which that's a whole different story. But as far as conditions, barometric pressures and things like that can cause different trailing conditions. But you're looking at usually a good trail to a race anywhere, depending on how hot it would be an hour to 2 to 3 hours. But I've
Mhm.
also seen races go, you know, all day,
Mhm.
and but it typically varies really
Yeah.
it really varies on the bear.
Yeah. And these dogs, they can smell a pretty cold trail, can't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I would say anywhere average. Like I said, it's different from the early the fall when it's real hot to December time of the year. It's the ground and stuff like that, barometric pressure and the humidity has a lot to play into that. But
Hmm.
they can typically smell 6 to 12 hour old track, I would
Wow.
guess. But
Wow. And so, those dogs are putting in a lot of work and getting there, and then you go to the tree, and you mentioned something that a lot of people may not realize. You said that whether you just love on that dog, pat it, tell it good job, or you decide to harvest.
right,
So you're not out there harvesting every bear that
right,
at trees, right?
yeah, I would say over 3/4 of the bears that we treed this year caught what we call caught would
Mm-hmm.
be we just let them go. Pet the dogs up,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be a small bear and or it be a sow or a sow with cubs, which is illegal, of course, to
Mm-hmm.
harvest. But yeah, we I know it's been said a lot of different places, but it's a good way of what you call a catch and it's the only form of catch and release
Mm-hmm.
hunting really because
Well.
you're able to go to that tree,
Mm-hmm.
pet the dogs up, and most houndsmen get just as much enjoyment out of
Absolutely.
their dog doing good work and petting them up
Oh,
and them going back and talking
yeah.
about it.
It takes a lot of work to train these dogs to do it. They do have a lot of natural drive, and they do have a lot of grit, but their way might not be the way that you want them to do it.
Right.
And it takes a lot of time and a lot of training. I've trained hounds, and I'm taking a stab at trying to train bird dogs, which is a whole different ball
Mhm.
game. But it takes a lot of work and commitment. So when you get a puppy, I mean, what's the process of how much training goes into that and the work?
Well, to be honest with you, the I've had the best luck raising the puppies myself. So if have a litter of pups, I usually typically keep 3 or 4 of them, and then I'll kind of pick the ones that I want best, and then I'll start giving the other ones to my friends that I hunt with. But I like to, if I have the opportunity, I like to let them run loose around the house, and they kind of just be puppies and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy their being outside. And then it's like something in them kind of clicks. If most of them's got it, they'll start, chasing squirrels or they'll
Mm-hmm.
start chasing rabbits, and then you start seeing they become gamies, what we call it. They'll just kind of get after anything around the
Mm-hmm.
house. But yeah, and then that's when you start pretty much tying them up. Then you can start doing other things such as
Mm-hmm.
teaching them how to load and lead and heel and things like
Recall,
yeah,
right? Get
yeah.
them to come
That's a
back
big
to
thing,
you.
especially
Yeah,
these days because we've got starting to get more populated areas and stuff. The recall
absolutely.
on a dog is really
But yeah, and they also have a feed bill too,
oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
starting to get more and more expensive.
Absolutely, and you have to feed them a good quality diet.
Yeah,
Not all dog food is created equal. You got to feed when they're puppies high protein
yeah,
and fat content because they are active dogs and they're out working for you. So
yeah.
they have a feed bill. So when you say that it's just as rewarding to see that dog do it,
Hmm.
I fully understand where you're coming from.
Especially
And
when you raise them from a puppy and
mm-hmm,
you've actually owned their mother and the grandmother or their
mm-hmm,
father or grandfather or whatever. It's real rewarding just to actually just walk up to a tree and see 5 or 6
mm-hmm,
of those dogs you've raised. And
yeah. And you see that progression. You
yeah,
see that
yeah,
progression where that little puppy is gnawing on everything in the house and
exactly
chasing everything around and jumping on people.
Or my little girls carrying them around and things like that. But
yeah. So and then it's out there, pursuing game.
Yeah.
So and that's a good point, to bring it's not all about, harvesting the animal, which certainly hunting done correctly is a great control method and when use science and biology, but also it helps educate bears.
Oh yeah.
And you'd mentioned the growing population, and Tennessee at one time ranked 8th in the fastest growing state in the United States. So a lot of population, Blount County and Sevier counties absolutely on that pace, of urban sprawl and people moving in, because we have such a great area to live in that attracts a lot of folks. And a lot of the bear hunting is done around the Great Smoky Mountains National Park over this way, and that park receives 14 million visitors a year. So, and as an extension office, we get calls about bear conflicts, wandering through the garden or in the yard eating up dog food, and we take pride in educating the public, as long as alongside TWA educating about bear wise and how to live with that, but educating those bear that man, we are not just a food source of easy grub and easy getting, and instilling that fear back into us, and using that as a part of a program to not only educate us, but educate the bears as well. You
mentioned getting many calls. I've started here in the last few years. Seems like I've got more calls of people saying, "Hey, I'm starting to see bears show up here, and I've never seen them show up before.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do?" And I'm just
try
to help them.
Yeah. So our state wildlife department, Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, they're the charge when it comes to wildlife management, and they've done a real good job with bears. I don't know if you're aware of this, Dallas, but in the 70s, bear season was actually closed. I mean, it was really bleak, and they had to close season and really change their management. And I think at one time it was only open to 4 or 5 counties, and there was only a handful of bears even harvested back then. Now the population has, increasing and doing a lot better. I think there's 37 counties where you have opportunities to chase bears and recreate. So that's a big deal from coming from the 70s, where there's a lot of us that were alive in the 70s and still can remember that time. But now we have it in 37 counties and over 250,000 acres of bear reserves.
Yeah.
So not only do we have that opportunity, we're still providing an area for those bears to reproduce and looking after the game. But that's hard to believe, 250,000 acres,
mm-hmm.
and as much as population's boomed and they have those reserves where they're not hunted and they can continue to do their thing and prove opportunity. And there's also a transitional zone.
Right.
So if you go north of us in Knox County, that's a transitional zone where there's not much, there's not any recreational opportunity there as far as hunting goes, but you get a lot of bear calls. We're start seeing bear calls going across the state, and
mm-hmm.
There's been news articles stating that bears are coming to Middle Tennessee, and
mm-hmm.
At one time the whole state of Tennessee was bear range, and over years before proper management, we were confined to the Smoky Mountain region, and then we've got these 37 counties all the way out to the plateau that offers zones, and it's heavy regulated. You heard Dallas mention earlier about the sows. Even a licensed hunter, which if you don't have a hunting license, even if you don't hunt, you should look into getting some form of license, because those state dollars that roll in from license help support management programs to promote these wildlife species. And Dallas can speak to this, but there's nobody that cares more about the resource than your hunters.
Exactly.
And your people who recreate, because this is very important to their heritage and to how they grew up, and a lot's learned. But before we make that segue, you're only allowed one bear per year.
Yes, sir.
Licensed hunter, correct?
Yes, sir.
So one bear only. It cannot be a cub,
Right.
and they define the cub, or the state TWRA defines a cub as anything 70 pounds or under.
Right. 75 pounds.
75 pounds or under. And so you can't even shoot a sow,
That's
which is
yielding,
a female.
yielding cubs
That has a cub by her side, or if she shows signs,
right.
which you can tell, and we can get more detailed. But can't harvest a sow with a cub, or if she has a cub by her side. And what TWA has done, they're smart. They've adjusted our hunting season to where, bears, they call it hibernation, but it's really more of a torpor. But the females go into their form of hibernation earlier than the males, so they align hunting season in that to try to give those opportunities for just the males, which is called a boar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so but talking about how hunters care so much about their resources, Dallas, tell us what bear hunting means to you and why it's important to you.
Well, Ronnie, it's important to me, like I said, mainly because of the dogs. That's the foremost thing. If it wasn't for hunting with the dogs, then I wouldn't bear hunt. So, and I feel like it's important to manage the population with the dogs, because I feel like it's the most successful way of managing the population. A bear is elusive enough, though you may see them on Facebook or somewhere else on the news. People seen them out, but they're pretty elusive. So, as far as if you were to still hunt, it would pretty much decrease the success rate, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's a different type of hunting for sure.
Right.
But yeah, we see bears certainly times of year when what they call mass is low in the mountains, and they come low. And me and the wife saw one. It was pretty. It was later than what I expected. It was probably in September, right before September. There was one standing at the McDonald's in Seymour.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was almost in the drive-through right off Chapman Highway. So big old boar. But seeing them around, people get excited. They have this romantic view of them, and they are special.
Oh yeah,
special animals. But everything has to be managed properly, because we have an impact on the landscape. No matter what side of the fence you lean on, or what you think, we definitely have an impact, and it needs to be a positive impact.
Right.
So we need to sway that. Our actions as the ones that are at outdoor recreation have to sway that impact towards a positive direction. But
I think, getting back to what you're saying, it's important to me because I honestly care a lot about the bears and the bear population. So I think, just as hunters in general, with dogs or still hunting, it's our duty pretty much to help control the population, or you're going to see, diseases and stuff like that, which Virginia is starting to see signs of mange and stuff. They're really struggling with it. It's really plummeted their population. So, and their record. So.
That makes a good point. Mother Nature's good at balancing things, so it's going to be balanced one way or the other. That's just a fact of life. But Mother Nature is good at putting something in the spot. She don't like any empty holes. And what I like about hunting in general, and it's true for bear hunting, deer hunting, or if you're just out, doing outdoor recreation, is you get to learn a lot about the biology of the ecosystem. I like calling woodsmanship. You get to learn about the trees.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to learn about what's growing, what's going on in your environment. But let's talk about, when you're out there, when you're trying to find, where bear, what is good bear habitat to you? What do you look for when you want to find a bear?
Well, I would say, since I was talking earlier where they're so, inclusive, you're looking for, thick, typically laurel, mountain laurel, rhododendron. When there's heavy mass crop, you're looking for white oaks, and in the spring, a lot of people don't know this, but they actually will feed on the green buds of the poplar trees and stuff. So you'll recognize in early spring where they've been climbing these poplars where the fresh green buds are starting. far as fall, when you're hunting them, you're typically looking for, water bedding areas, which would be pretty much laurel thickets and stuff, and right on the edges of white oak flats, and things like that. But of course, they eat on beech nuts and hickories and um, red oaks, but their primary source when it's hitting, they're white oaks.
Yeah.
As far that goes with pretty much everything else in the woods.
Well, the stuff that you mentioned, I think there's a common misconception of folks out there. They're not a carnivore,
right?
They don't. You see these majestic pictures of brown bear, which is a totally different species, out there catching, rainbow or salmon out of the river, and you'll see there's a viral video not long ago of a bear, dragging a pig up off the spur of Gatlinburg, but I think the story goes that pig was hit by a car. And what bear are is opportunistic. They're omnivores, so they like the green shoots and the acorns and mass, and they'll certainly eat berries, but they
like grub worms,
but they'll take an advantage of a down feral pig or a fawn if they run across it. They're not out there stalking fawns or nothing like that, but they'll certainly opportunistic. They'll get in a hen house if you let them.
Oh yeah. I've actually had people calling and asking me because they've been in their chicken coops and stuff, believe it or not. But whatever. It really depends on the time of the year. Also, like I was talking about the early spring, they start eating the greenery stuff. And then when the berries come in, and like I said, the white oaks, that's their main thing. So
what don't like a white oak?
Yeah, that really affects the hunting for anything.
I love white oaks because you got your squirrels, your deer. White oak's a great mass producing tree, and I'd imagine I'd mentioned the American chestnut on this show before, but I'd imagine that was probably a number one mass back when we had that in the Smokies.
Yeah,
mass.
I've read where I can't remember if it was the 30s or 20s, but when that blight come through and killed the chestnuts, it really did an impact on the population of the bears. So.
Well, it affected so much because it was predominantly the mass producing tree of Southern Appalachia, and there's still wood barns standing from it, and that blight made them functionally extinct. You can go out and find, saplings and things, but they don't make it to maturity. But science and a lot of the good work at the University of Tennessee with Dr. Schlarbaum and some of that research, they're bringing that back.
That's good.
They've made some crosses and modified some of the seedlings, and they've been very close. A lot more research is needed, and there's even nonprofit organizations towards that. You haven't missed one plant that I associate with bear math, and squaw root. You ever heard of squaw root?
No, sir.
Squaw root is a wild plant that grow in the Smokies and up in our region, and it's a plant. And if you got a lot of bear, you've probably never seen it because they love it.
Yeah,
that's like I tell people about strawberry bushes. Some people call them hearts of burst, and I try not to call them strawberry bushes because people think of the red strawberry.
Yeah,
it's not the fruit. It's a native shrub, and it's an evergreen. And it's it's our only native unanimous. So a lot of people know unanimous because they have it in their yard. It's planted ornamentally. But there's a native one, Americanus, and hearts of burst. I tell folks, if you have that on your deer lease, or if you have that in your woods and it's not got browse on it, there's no deer there.
Right.
Because deer just slam it and they love it.
Yeah.
But squaw root is a pretty cool plant that I'll pull up and show you. But the population of bear, we found documentation, and from TWR, they estimate, and again, it's these are estimates, but it's hard to track big game populations, especially something like bear that are come and go, and bear are not like a whitetail deer. A whitetail buck, it can spend most of its life in a 50 square mile radius. Right. They travel a lot during the rut, but some of these predatory cats and these Bears, they have a lot bigger home range, so they come and go, but it's hard to track. They estimate anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 bear in the Smoky Mountain region. So, and hunters harvest, good management. It's estimated that hunters harvest, that's only 5 to 10% of that. And we had some unfortunate stories. I remember when I was in high school. We had some real bad car accidents with bear.
Yeah.
And that's a bad day when you hit a bear with an automobile. Anything's bad with an automobile, but imagine hitting a 300-pound black bear. It's a little bit different hitting a 110, 120-pound whitetail buck. But I remember growing up here, and I don't recall as many bear sightings, which we didn't have Facebook and social media, and that's a lot, big deal. But I grew up in an area called DuPont, and it's just off the foot of Chilhowie and Pine Mountain, and we would have a bear every now and then. And I remember seeing bear scat one time archery hunting, and I was excited because I'd never heard of a bear in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we see bear all the time, and that population increases, and we're living with bear, and that can push them and certainly change the dynamics. But, we got to do research. Is that the bear population growing, or is that the human population, getting big and pushing these bear into different situations?
Yeah, exactly.
But,
you're starting to see a lot of growth in the mountains.
That's right. A lot of development in the mountains, and it's a beautiful place to live, and we can't recreate like we used to. We have to get different. A lot of people are coming to this region, and because it's such a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
But another a topic that we need to talk about is how do hunters get along with the non-hunters? You have this population that are hunters and fishermen. They love to recreate. They care about the resource, and then over here on the other side, you have about the same population. Research shows that are against it.
Right.
Growing up in Southern Appalachia, you can say, I get it.
Yeah.
And then you have this wide range of people that's indifferent to it.
Yeah.
So how do we communicate that? We know property boundaries. We have all these apps, like Onyx, and you have Avenza and all these that, we know property boundaries.
Right.
But the dogs don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And the dogs are such a big deal, as we mentioned. So as a bear hunter, how would you want to communicate that to a landowner? Let's say, I don't know I think everyone's experienced this when you hunt with a gun dog. If your dog trees a coon or a bear on someone else's property, how do you handle that, and how do you basically handle that situation and let them know, hey, I mean no harm. I'm doing my due diligence.
Yeah. Well, I would say the best way to be is honestly just, try to be straightforward. Don't try to, sneak around. Somebody knows that you're just being straight up with them. They probably stand a better chance of,
Mm-hmm.
having a better conversation. But I feel like, that the best thing to do, just go up, they say they've treed on somebody's property, and where the people live, and you have the opportunity to pull in there and, speak with them, tell them, a little bit what you're doing and where, you've come from, and that you've had permission in this area,
Mm-hmm.
on the, and not far from there, and they just happen to cross over and tree the bear, for instance, or a coon or any kind of, dog, that hunting dog. Most of the time, most people, they're fine with it. As long as you're, honest with them, tell them, we're just trying to, get in there and get our dog out. And I've actually had people that's asked to go to the tree with us, and, be the sometimes first bear they've seen that close up, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of see us, the way we interact with our dogs. And of course, that's the main priority for us is the dog. So,
oh yeah, and we don't abuse these dogs. These
Right.
dogs are outrageous. So these dogs get fed good. We don't want nothing to happen to these dogs. The equipment. Oh my gosh, back when I coon hunted, you had an antenna. You held that thing like it was a satellite dish.
Right.
and you'd beat, 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 beat. You know, it was just all this, you know. But now they have these fancy collars, and they can go for miles, and so you know that's probably a $1,500 to $2,000 outfit right there alone, right? The collars. So,
the collar and the handheld itself.
Yeah. So
I think it's a big. It's on the hunter also to, you know, step up and, you know, go forward to the property owner if he has the opportunity and say, hey, you know, instead of a lot of the bad publicity on the hunters have probably been where they've tried to, you know, just run in there real quick and get their dogs out, or try to sneak in there and get the dogs, you know. But I think it's just best for us to just, you know.
I think that's crucial. I mean, you may be the only representation that landowner sees of a hunter, you know, and they may be from California, Michigan. It doesn't matter. They may grow up there and they've not just been around it. I mean, it's not for everybody. You know, growing up here, you know, all you buddies, you see them at the gas station, they're getting ready to go hunting in the morning. You have your close hunting friends. It's hard to imagine that we're a minority.
Right.
Because, you know, you immerse yourself in this culture. And it's hard to tell that you're actually, you know, there's a lot more people that don't hunt than actually recreates that way. So that interaction is crucial. And I agree, you know, if you go in there and like if you're coon hunting, you know, bear hunting's not done at night.
Exactly.
But coon hunting, you know, cutting your light off and sneaking in there and trying to, you know, that's suspicious activity, you know, and land is precious. Your belongings is precious, and you don't want to put off the wrong.
Right, especially nowadays. You can't tell with anybody. So
no, and you don't want to get shot. And
I'm talking.
You know,
the landowner doesn't.
Hurt.
Yeah, the landowner. You know, he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, communication is key, and by law you have to ask.
Right.
You know, you just can't run over there on somebody else's property and you know, I respect that. We don't want no one to tread on us either, but you ought not to, you know, sneak around and go in there. And I find more times than not, they're cordial and they're willing to work with you. You know, they may not let you come back and kick loose there, but you know, and also it takes some, you know, common sense on our end too, you know, probably not bear hunt on 7 acres or 10 acres, you know.
Because it takes quite a bit of land. And I know that's we're kind of dwindling down a little bit out of that because of the development and stuff like that. But if we're going to be able to try to keep doing this, we're going to have to, you know, be polite. Exactly. Polite with the landowners and
and then likewise with the landowners, you know, that you know, if hunters are doing it legal, and there is laws against hunter harassment, and you shouldn't mess with somebody's dog collar. You know, these hunters have a lot of times all the hunters that I know, they have their name and phone number on it. And
that's the best way to get a hold
of them. But if they're treed, they're coming to it. You know, but you know, if you find a dog that, you know, is around your property, that's gotten a bit off and things like that. But
the best way is just 99.9% of the time there's going to be a name tag on the collar, and that's the best way to contact the owner. And I can assure you that they'll be there as quick as they.
They're sick because those dogs mean a lot to them. And a loyal hunting companion and all the time vested. You know, you take and I can speak from experience. I just got I bought a 7-week-old registered lab puppy because I've caught this allergy where I can't eat mammals or nothing. So this mountain man's trying to turn into a bird hunter. And, you know, we live in the wrong part of the world for a lot of this, but you know, I've got a mountain lab, as I like to call it.
There you go.
And you know, you take this 7-week-old puppy. This dog's just, you know, been taken off its mother. It's in this brand new environment. You got a 7-week-old puppy. And then you've put all this time in it, gradual steps. And dogs, they don't reason. You know, they don't learn like we do. Hopefully we can reason. And, you know, make our own conclusion. Dogs associate it with conditioning. So you have to condition this dog to heel, to mind, to recall, to do what it wants to. And it's not like you get these pups and then you're taking them hunting next month.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you have to build up to that and training. And once it is training, you don't want that dog to chase a deer. You don't want it to necessarily even, you know, look at other games. So there's a lot of work in it. So yeah, they'll definitely find their dog, but you know, work together and understand. And there's, you know, on the off occasion, you know, there may be a situation where you run into where, you know, you don't have an agreement with the landowner.
Right.
So, I've not had that happen. I've known some people that's happened, and then you have to get TWRA involved and everything. But you know, education goes a long way as far as that. And so, what would you tell me? I need to have a duck hunter in here because I've only been once. But let's say I've never been bear hunting, and I think, man, this sounds like really fun. I like hiking. I love working with dogs. I enjoy, you know, the chase. What would you tell someone that's really green if they want to pick up bear hunting? How would I get started?
Well, from the outside looking in, it kind of looks easy sometimes, just because, you know, you're in the truck driving around looking for tracks, but there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Well, let's say this. Let me stop you there. You're not driving on pavement roads down city. You're on private land doing this on logging roads and things. If you're hunting on public land, it's a different different situation. But where you particularly hunt, you're driving around looking for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want people to think, well, I can just go driving around the spur,
Yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into it. I mean, so you've got to sit back and think, do you want to just go participate in the hunt? Do you want to, you know, eventually own dogs to do this? But like I said earlier, there's kind of some limiting factors where our land is starting to kind of dwindle a little bit. And if you were able to find a big tract of land, which it usually takes to hunt bears with dogs, typically there's going to be another group of hunters there. So your best bet would be to, you know, get in with somebody and then just kind of stay in their hip pocket, I would imagine, just because there's a lot to it other than just, hey, we're going to go, you know, harvest the bear. There's a lot of stuff that goes in with the dogs as far as, you know, taking care of them and then getting out, learning the sign and things like that. So, so I think the best way to do it would be just to get in with somebody. And I'm not going to lie, but some bear hunters are, you know, tight knit groups. And so it may take a few times, you know.
Yeah. I find the best approach to that with wanting to help.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, help with the dogs, help working at the camp if you have one, you know, showing your willingness to learn. And, you know, we're always weary of someone just wanting to jump in and get a bear pelt.
Right.
You want to show that you're interested in the pastime, learn about the heritage of it. And finding that mentor is really, really key. Yeah. And if you don't have private land, which unfortunately in the South, that is the name of the game, is private land. It's just not, we don't have the luxury of Montana or something that has a lot of federal land, but there is public opportunity in Tennessee. They have some managed areas. I know that I'm going to try to go in September on a bow hunt, and that is a drastically different hunt. You know, you're walking in, you're trying to find sign, and you're trying to get in there before the dogs.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And you've got their highly pressured areas.
Highly pressured area. Finding signs, sitting still. And that is a solitary hunt.
Yeah.
You know, but that might be for you if you don't want a large feed bill and get into, you know, all the plot hounds and blue ticks and everything. But certainly, you know, learn about it. And there is some publications out there. There's they just had a big bear hunter convention out in Arkansas. Did you hear about that?
Yep.
Bear Bonanza.
Yeah.
Some other podcasts that I listen to really participate in that. And there's magazines out there that you can learn about if you still like reading those. And you'll be surprised of what close knit friends you can make in this.
Some of my best friends have come from bear hunting or hunting with dogs or
and they
all
come
over this
from
country.
all over the country, and they're all of different ages.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
I love to hear the stories about bear. And bear is such a passionate topic. Well, it don't matter which side of the aisle you're on. And when I worked in the park area, we'd get questions, a lot of questions about bear. You know, you have people that come in and want to know what time they turn the bears loose in Cades Cove.
Yeah.
You know, and Dallas was with me there one time. I was going a little too fast in the park and had to talk to a ranger one time with him. And I should have known better because I worked there. But, you know, you get questions when they turn the bear loose.
Yeah.
I tell you, one time I got a call, an extension. It wasn't in this county. And to protect the innocent, you know, we had a landowner. Again, this was not Blount County. And this was in a county that did not have any population of bear. Not saying they couldn't have been a passer through, but not an established population. But I had a call of a brown bear eating carp out of the lake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, as a wildlife professional, your job's always, you know, job security out there is always pretty safe. But especially with growing population demand. But
I think a lot of it's just, you know, trying to educate the public on the bear itself, and then obviously part of the reason that I'm here is to try to, you know, educate on what we're actually doing out there, you know, as far as hunting and stuff. So it's not a behind closed doors type thing.
Yeah. They're a passionate bunch. I know when bear regulation, when I was a teenager, you know, they had some major bear changes. And for some reason, I remember it being a meeting at the Sevier County Courthouse. And man, the people that turned out for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's born and bred in a lot of these Southern Appalachian folks, and it's a great thing to behold when it's managed properly and everything. But we want to get more people outdoors, and it's really accessible. If you want to see, I know on the coon hunting side of things, they used to be, you know, bear clubs, and there's probably some bear clubs still here, but do they register the bear hounds through UKC?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, all my dogs are UKC registered.
So that's United Kennel Club,
Yep.
and that's the way to, you know, a lot of people remember the AKC because that's, you know, the big dog shows, and that's, you know, I don't know if that's the biggest, but that's the one I hear more of because they register the French bulldogs, the poodles, and
exactly.
But United Kennel Club, I think they primarily focus on
hounds
and the hunting breeds, but they have probably local chapters and clubs. I know in coon hunt they have field trials and things like that. I don't know if they do that with bear anymore.
Yeah, it's not a popular thing really, but I would say that our hunter numbers are probably declining a little bit. It's not as popular of an activity as probably it used to, and like I said, also the opportunities not as much there as far as land and stuff too.
Well, you know, as there's a lot of factors in that, and we've done research at UT to look at that, and you know, it's an older population. You know, how do we get the younger generation, you know, more involved in the outdoors? And you got to have those opportunities. And it's not easy to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, we just scratch the surface on one particular, you know, species. But, you know, if you've never grown up or had a mentor with it, you know, you got to learn the habitats. You got to learn the biology and the science of it. You got to learn the laws and regulations of it. You got to learn you know, where to go, you know, and how to do it. Then, if you are successful, what in the world do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know, what in the world do you do with it? I mean, unless you got, you know, the resources taken, have it processed and everything. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of steps.
A lot of education.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting younger people involved and also getting a more diverse audience. You know, it's not just for, you know, males, you know,
there's
females and
a lot of females
to get involved and minority groups.
Exactly.
You know, and every hunter that cares about the resource wants to, deep down, it's hard to see because you touched on it. You talked about a closed group, but, you know, it's hard to think about it, but a lot of hunting is secretive because they don't want my fishing spot, or
Right.
they don't want my hunting spot, and I don't want them to know that this big 12-point buck's over here.
This is my.
But to survive,
Yeah.
to make it, we have to be inclusive.
Yeah.
And really deep down, we want more folks to be involved and to pass these pastimes down to future generations. We don't want to come off as greed or anything, so we need to be welcoming to everybody because we don't want to lose it.
Yeah, I think
ultimately.
It's important also for us amongst each other. When I say each other, as far as hunters, it's kind of sometimes you've got turkey hunters, you've got deer hunters, you've got duck hunters, you've got bear hunters. We really all need to be on each other's side because we're fighting a battle that we can't win on our own.
Well, that's you have this demographic that does it. You have this demographic that hates it. And you have all this in the middle.
Yeah, and you're trying to sway the people in the middle.
And then educate everybody. And
if they see us bickering between each other,
and we're all in it together.
Yeah,
there's an example out in a different state to where they're putting wildlife conservation on the ballot instead of using science and information. They're using a ballot.
Right.
So people that are not educated on it, or people are living in urban areas are voting, where the people that have to live off of it or that have this as part of their culture,
or they're affected by
So if they come after bear and say that you shouldn't shoot that bear because it's pretty, or you shouldn't hurt her,
right,
what's then to stop you from chasing birds with a dog,
right?
Or so
it's kind of been said amongst our community, not just bear hunting but hound hunting. I would say especially bear hunting is kind of the low hanging fruit, because everybody loves bears, even bear hunter. Everybody loves bears, so it's kind of a thing where if we don't have the backing of the deer hunters, the turkey hunters, the bird hunters, we've all got to kind of, if that gets cut out, then there's somebody else next in line. So,
but yeah, I mean, there's always room for education and promotion. So the last thing that we'll talk about, that was the most important thing, is how to get started. But if you harvest a bear, or I want to communicate that this is not just trophy hunting. You're not just getting a rug on the floor. So what do you do with that bear when you do decide to harvest the bear?
Like I said earlier, we treat a lot of bears this year that we left. I mean, our main objective is not quote trophy. Our main objective is the dogs. But if we do harvest one, typically it's somebody that it's their first bear, and a lot of times they do like the rugs or a mount. But you've also got a lot of opportunity for meat, which is really good meat. It's I honestly like it better than deer meat. It doesn't have the gaminess that a deer does, and we use a lot of it in burger or roast and stuff like that. But you've also it's kind of got a little trendy here lately online, but people have known about it for years, and we call it grease, or so it's a good way for cooking. Or I've got a friend, his wife actually makes soaps and candles and salves and stuff like that out of it. But there's actually there's a lot of resources for the bear, but that's the main.
Yeah, so you're talking about the bear grease.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, but bear have bacon.
Yeah.
We think of pork when we hear bacon, but bear have the muscle in the anatomy to make bacon. There's a lot of wild hogs you can't get bacon from, but bear have it. And I think it was the preferred diet of one of the frontiersmen. I can't remember if it was Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone, but they preferred bear bacon.
Yeah. And
I've even read and listened to others say that it was the preferred big game.
Yeah.
They got the deer to utilize for leather and other things, but they really liked the bear for its product.
Yeah.
The
bear fat was a big part of it when you render it down, make grease and stuff. But yeah.
Now, I think you have to submit a tooth. Is that right?
Yeah,
They
that's
do
correct.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just started that. Well, it's been a thing for, years, but it's just become mandatory over the last couple of years. Which is, I guess, a good way to keep up with obviously harvest and what age groups and stuff.
Yeah, so they age that tooth, right?
Yeah,
I think it's the premolar.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
It's a little tooth it's a little small premolar right behind the canine. You wouldn't notice it if you weren't looking for it 'cause it's tiny, but that's how they age them. So.
Very good. But yeah, I've heard it's a great table fare. I ate it growing up, but it's been so long. But
there's it's supposed to be cooked to about 100, 165, 100, about 160 to 165 because it carries something called trichinosis, which I've never really heard many people around here getting it, but it's something
a
to be.
Possibility. Yeah. There's been people really hurt by that.
Yeah.
They used to have a problem with that and domesticated pork at one time, but we've worked on that. But yeah, with that particular game, it needs to be cooked to 165 to avoid that, and you want to be absolutely safe. And we have a class coming up this weekend to talk about food safety, and when you're talking about hunters, food safety starts with shot placement. Oh, exactly. Really, So dispatching that animal and getting a wholesome product and really setting that out. But again, this is just part one. So hopefully next time we meet, we'll be on the tailgate somewhere, listening to those dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we covered a lot of ground, and I appreciate your opinions and your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate you
having me. I like having somebody on that actually does it. We can talk about the biology and everything, and there's still a lot to learn. They're doing these hair snares. I helped with that, and in college where they're getting data and everything, and bears are smart.
Oh yeah,
very smart animals. I remember on the fisheries crew, we had a bear follow us and get in our exclusion cages, catching trout, and
they have a very, very good nose on them.
Yeah, we'd always try to shoo them off, but this particular bear got so smart. I'm pretty sure it was the same one. He would be waiting on us, and one day he got tired of us shooing him off, and he just popped his jaws a couple of times, and we decided to move around him that day. But, well, very good. Well, Dallas, I appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate you having me, Ronnie.
And we'll look forward to getting out and seeing the real thing and learning what the big deal's about.
There you go.
All right. All right. Dallas did a great job. I appreciate him stopping by. I had mentioned that I would show you all squaw root. So here's a picture of some squaw root, also known as bear root. Cancer root is cancer root, American cancer root, bear corn, or growing up we'd hear it called squaw root. But cancer root, herbaceous perennial parasitic plant. It typically grows 3 to 8 inches in height and is unbranched, inflorescence look like cones from a conifer break through the surface of the soil. Plants are approximately 4 years old after they've been growing underground attached to oak roots. It grows in large areas of eastern America on organically rich forest soils. It needs well-drained soil but grows in a wide variety of light conditions. So, bear corn. But a lot of interesting conversation going back and forth. On part 2, we'll actually go on a bear hunt with Dallas and get to see it in the field. And that part, we'll talk to some landowners and some residents here in East Tennessee and get their side of the human dimensions of black bears in East Tennessee. So good stuff. And we'll be back with part 2 around the fall, September timeframe. But we'll go ahead and dive right into our preset that we talk about hobby farming and hobby gardening. So your tasks for March. It is a great time to plant fruit trees or plants. Make sure to prevent bare root stock from drying out prior to installation. They can be healed in outdoors. Remove straw production from strawberry plants. Assemble your spray materials to prepare for fruit season. Seed the remainder of warm season transplant. Tomato transplant needs 6 to 8 weeks, so March seeding means May transplants. Prepare garden soil if conditions allow. And remember that if you're tilling in a cover crop, the cover crop material may need a few weeks to decompose. Seed or transplant cool season crops. Hardy cool season crops are usually seeded or transplanted at 4 to 6 weeks before the frost-free date, while less cold hardy cool season crops are usually started 2 weeks before. Install row covers or low tunnels over early season transplants to increase day and night temperatures and support season growth. Don't forget to harden any transplants to reduce stress and loss of one placed in the ground. I lost some really good pepper plants a couple years ago, and by not hardening them, I was growing some of that Trinidad scorpion to make some hot sauce, which is a little bit different pepper, and did not do my due diligence and ended up really stressing them out by moving them straight outside. But start with pathogen-free soilless materials if you're doing transplants. Germination mixes are designed to start your seedlings off disease-free. They're also designed to drain well while holding enough water to support germination and growth. Most made are from peat or coconut along with perlite. Follow suggested temperatures for germination. One of the most common issues that we see is that it can cause poor germination if it's lower than ideal temperatures. Warm season crops like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants will germinate slowly when too cool and are more likely to have disease issues. The light is critical. Most indoor locations don't have enough light to grow stocky seedlings. Watch your seedlings for color and stem thickness, and supplement fluorescent or LED lighting can be the key. And don't overwater. Growing media should be allowed to dry out slightly. But air movement and light are important in managing the environment and drying out the media. So let's talk about tomatoes. The top 10 tomatoes for our Tennessee gardens. Tomatoes offers colors, sizes, shapes, flavors, and plant habits to meet the needs of many gardens. Below are some great options that have performed well in the Tennessee trials throughout the years. So, determine tomatoes top themselves by forming a flower at the growing point at a certain time. They are typically shorter and easier to manage in the garden. Intermediate varieties will produce new leaves and new flowers until killed by disease or frost. They will require more management but will produce over a longer time frame. And according to the University of Tennessee, we have 10 varieties. The Tasty Lee is a good tasting red slicer. Garden Treasure is a red slicer with large fruit and good taste. Defiant is a small red slicer, and it has good disease resistant. Chef's Choice Orange is a beautiful mid-sized orange fruit. Cherokee Carbon is a hybrid of two great parents with purple fruit. Damsel, a medium-sized pink tomato. It's got good disease resistance. Chef's Choice Yellow, large yellow fruit. And then Big Beef produces a consistent disease-resistant red slicer. Celebrity is a good plant size with productive and consistent red fruit. And coming in at number 1 is Beefmaster, a large beefsteak tomato that does really well here. So I like tomatoes. I like them with cucumber salad. My two favorite things are cucumbers and tomatoes. So that's what the Cowan household will be looking for. All right, you hear that downtown music. We will be talking about our upcoming event. upcoming event starting Monday, this coming Monday, which is, I believe it's March the 25th, we will be starting our wildlife judging team. So if you like competition and learning about the wildlife and great outdoors, this is for you. It's for grades 4th through 12th. I will be coaching a wildlife judging team, teaching y'all how to identify wildlife by their sound, fur, feathers, track, scent, and scat. We'll look at what it takes to be a wildlife professional. We'll have friendly competition, and we will try to win state and national championships and being a biologist for a day. We'll give you specific wildlife species, and we'll teach you what they require to make a living. We're talking about habitat. So you'll get to be a wildlife manager, and during this competition, we focus on teamwork. So the first practice is March the 25th, and we'll follow on every Monday, April the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th, and May the 6th. And we will travel all the way out to Oak Ridge at the Arboretum on May the 10th for our regional contest. And the top 3 to 4 teams will get the chance to win a state championship. And if you win that, you can compete at the national level. So we could take this really far. If you're interested in being a part of the Blount County 4-H Wildlife Judging Team, you can contact me at rcowan2@utk.edu or give us a call at 865-982-6430. If you don't live in Blount County, contact your county 4-H agent. Your county more than likely has a team to participate. All right. We are going to talk about our invasive. This episode's invasive is timely friendly, and we are focusing on that pesky Bradford pear. That Bradford pear is on our hit list for this episode. The Bradford pear is an ornamental, commonly planted tree here in Tennessee, but did you know it is highly invasive? If you drive around town in the countryside here in East Tennessee, it is riddled with white flowering trees that absolutely smell awful. They smell like rotten fish. Is the prettiest thing that I could say it smells like. But it does have pretty blossoms, but that's all the positive things that I have to say about it. It's very invasive, takes over the landscape. It converts back to this calorie pear. I call it a thorn pear. There are much better options to plant native wild species. So if you have these, consider eliminating this invasive species. If you have it on your property, you can control those with herbicide applications and a little bit of mechanical work. If you need to know how to control those nasty Bradford pears, you can contact your county extension office. But we really need to crack down on these. I mean, if you drive around Blount County or anywhere in East Tennessee, you see these white flowered trees, just how fast they can overtake a field or a property. And sometimes you even smell them before you can see them. They have bad growth habits. They're bad about splitting in a storm. They do look pretty, but they don't have a real good growing pattern to make it. So they replace native trees and really create food deserts for birds and other wildlife. So right now is a great time to prune it, and prune it as close to the ground as you can. But let's talk about a better plant. This month's plant is Leucojum, or I call it spring snowflake. It's really called summer snowflake, but it grows in our area around March. And if you want to expand your spring flower bulb palette beyond the basics, you can plant this Leucojum or the summer snowflake. It is blooming right now. This is right around the corner with mid and late season daffodils. It has white bell-like flowers edged on in green sit atop, 12 to 14 inch flower stalks that nod downwards. Flowers can last a few weeks in the garden, particularly if the weather is mild. Bees flock to these little bells and get to work in the minute the fast flower opens. Each stem can have as many as 6 individual blooms. If you want to add a summer snowflake to your garden, seek out bulbs from a reputable source and fall plant. If you have a gardening friend who is willing to share some of this wonderful plant, divide clumps and replant in early summer as the foliage starts to turn yellow. Plants will continue to go dormant and you should be rewarded the following spring. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of Appalachia Atcha. Your county extension office has a lot of cool things going on. In Blount County, we had our first shotgun practice. We have a 4-H shooting sports shotgun team that met for the first time, and we'll be shooting Thursday on Thursdays at the Chihowie Sportsman's Club. If you have youth in Blount County that are interested in being part of the shotgun team, please give us a ring. We also had our first archery practice ever in Blount County. We had kids that signed up for Wolf Camp, the Wildlife Outdoor Leadership Focus Camp. They got to participate and have some fun in archery. So yeah, we are doing big things here with our youth in Blount County, and especially in outdoor recreation. So look us up. And again, thank you for stopping by for part 1, Bear Human Dimensions. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. We got a good friend coming out. Another wildlife biologist will give us an update on forestry, woodsmanship, and maybe what you should know about your property. Until next time, see you around the bend.